Can you hear me? Okay. There's enough people here now. We can start talking. Hello, everybody. I on a recent stream was like, when was this? After the last Umineko playthrough, maybe? I don't know. Somewhere along the line, we talked about visual novels a little bit, and I was like, I bet I could write a visual novel. What would you all want from a visual novel written by Trixie the Golden Witch? The first answers I got were trans girls. I was like, okay, yeah, obviously. Drew says, care to talk about the recent pattern of the stream titles? Let's creativity as opposed to let's create. Noun versus verb. YouTube title physiognomy is relevant. Are you saying like it should be let's create for like algorithmic reasons or something? I don't know. They're just their names. Their names. I have to have a name for a stream every single day. I was going to talk about this idea on yesterday's stream, but we never got around to it. And I ended up doing other things instead. So I just was like, okay, I'll title it like the same thing, but different. And we'll actually talk about what we were going to talk about on the yesterday's stream had I gotten around to it. So I was told trans girls and obviously Yuri. So ergo Yuri between trans girls. And then what was the other suggestion? Psychological horror, although I don't know if like I'm definitely not going for a horror tone overall. Maybe like there could slip in elements of horror, but mostly psychological is the part I want to focus on there. That there would be psychological storytelling aspects. What were the other suggestions? That was mostly it. And so I was trying to imagine. Oh, and the other one was somebody said, what if they explore labyrinths? And so that was how I came up with the concept of this story. I thought, okay, it'll be called Labyrinthers, and it's about a group of trans girls who adventure around as, just hang out as like a casual thing they do for fun, is they go and solve labyrinths. So then the question in my mind became like, what do I want who do I want the characters to be, and what do I want the parameters of the story to be, right? Because initially my thought is like, well, what city am I going to pick? What city are 6 normal girls going to walk around solving labyrinths? But then I was like, I don't want to write about normal girls in a normal city. What the fuck am I talking about? I want to be able to write completely insane, crazy shit. So instead, each of these girls is from a totally different solar system. They live in a spaceship together, and they travel the universe solving labyrinths. And based on a conversation I just had with Bird before this stream, I think I'm going to make each of them literally like the queen of that solar system, or like the leader in some regard. Because I think that would be badass. Literally 6 queens of whole solar systems who've teamed up to go solve labyrinths, because labyrinths are just like a big problem for the universe, I guess. And labyrinths are always caused by some kind of psychological thing, basically. So yeah, they're going to be traveling the universe, solving labyrinths. So I came up with 6 character concepts based on art that I found on Blue Sky, that I will redesign or have someone redesign based around these concepts. And also these characters will not, a lot of them will be like blue or purple or orange skinned because they're from other planets. I only got one character who's from our planet, our solar system. This girl, Lana Hickman. Her name is just a combination of of Rhapsody and Dochi's names, because they're my 2 favorite women who rap. Let's check out these reference artists I've got here. Oh my god, I love this profile picture. Yeah, this artwork's fucking fantastic. So I want the sort of like leader to be like this just like tough, athletic black girl from Earth. And then all the other members will be from other solar systems. So the Altair system, the Sirius system, the Vega system, the Deneb system, and the Difta system. You have a girl from each. So you have Lana Hickman, the leader, and then Yildi Campo would be the second in command, so to speak. The Blue Ranger. The she might literally be blue, because that would just be funny to have a Blue Ranger who's blue. Leonardo from well, I don't know if I'm going to say that they're like a Raphael Leonardo kind of, dichotomy from the Ninja Turtles, but, it'll be something like that, a little bit like that. But, both of these should be like tough ass chicks who are like frontline fighters. Lana's more tank, Yildi is more DPS, I think. But they're like the front line. Then you've got the resident, like, small girl. We're not going to call her a lolly because she's not a child, but just a really small woman. Wriggle Halloway is the name I picked for this. Did I open up the reference artists on that last one? Did I actually scroll through these? I'll put a link to this document in the description so you can get to all of these artists yourself more easily. Abs, definitely a focus here for this design. She should definitely have like a built set of abs. Anyway, Wriggle here, I'm thinking is more of like a support / spellcaster. Well, like DPS with some support traits type thing, you know? And then I want like a tall. These are the only characters who will be like at all humanoid, really. The other ones should all be more like, alien furry type designs. So I want a super tall girl from the Vegas system, and it will be Ao Binga, based on art like this. This artist, I really love this character they've got. They got a lot of art of this like unicorn. And then but I want this kind of mysterious, ethereal, maybe like literally not having a face, like, somewhat inhuman, well, very inhuman rather. I just want these characters to not be even as human as these designs are, probably, but I just went with whatever references I could gather quickly. I want a lizard girl, Von Mamondi. Someone who's, oh my god, this is cute. Holy shit. Fantastic. I've opened up too many fucking tabs. Something. I want this design to be like kind of untamed. I want these to be like weird designs. Whoever I get to try to draw these characters, and then I want there to be like just a kind of cutesy, sexy cat girl, the flirty one. The one who. Oh yeah, I should have clarified the roles. Like this one and this one would be like support roles, and then she'd be like the backline tank. So yeah, I'm thinking of it like an Overwatch team or something. But this is the vibe. The vibe is just like cutesy, hot chicks hanging out on a spaceship, flying around the universe, solving labyrinths very casually. Like I don't really want to focus on interpersonal conflict between these characters too much. Maybe some subtle things, but like a Kaon level of interpersonal conflict. I'm more interested in them fighting what is in the labyrinth. Like they should be like a well-oiled machine, like a really, really good team sport, like a sport esports team, like, or sports team, even just a really good team. And the enemy's out there, so it's about exploring what is creating these labyrinths with these characters, and like simultaneously should feel like, we're just having fun with this great group of friends, but also what they're doing is serious, psychologically meaningful work to save the universe from labyrinths, which I assume all labyrinths will work like the House of Leaves labyrinth, where it just keeps growing endlessly in on itself. So if you don't stop it, it will eventually cause like some kind of reverse entropy and swallow the universe. So you have to solve the labyrinths before they get out of control type shit. And of course, one of like probably Lana herself will have like secretly somewhere in the back of the universe, like the labyrinth tied to her psyche is like the deepest, most complicated one that like they know they can't even solve until they get so good at solving all the other labyrinths they can tackle the final boss labyrinth, the one inside of their own leader's mind. I just came up with all that just now. So this is us doing imagination. What else about these characters? I'm curious. What would you want to see? What kind of things would you want from these stories? What kind of interactions would you want from these characters? Who would you ship? What do they look like in your mind's eye? How would you expand on any of this? I realize I've gone very visual with this so far. I have not described any aspect of who they are other than what system they're from, what goofy name they have, and two pieces of very recent art that I have found to characterize their general look and feel with. Also, I picked out a theme song for Lana because she's literally just like kind of based on Doji. So why?
On the uprise, left, right, uppercut, punchlines make them duck, right hooks up the cut, platinum hits, fuck is up. Pop star, rock star, dark skin bitch, 24-inch waist man, dinko dick. Do you wanna take a ride on my eco trip? Slow down when you riding this eco stick,
That energy. Oh yeah, I guess my description here says slice of life, supernatural, sci-fi, psychological, visual novel, small sapphic sect of trans girls travel around the universe in a starship, solving labyrinths. Oh, my addiction to consonants continues. Did I plan for any planet-specific evolutionary adaptations? No, I did not. Any ideas you have? Literally just suggest stuff because you would want to see it. Not because you think it would make any like don't try to justify the logic in your head for why it would be there. I can do that. And I can do that quickly. But I just need like, what do you want to see? You know? Because for me, I'm too easily intrigued, I think. Like, if I see any idea, I can like burrow in on it, but I might lose interest if it's something that that I'm just doing for my own curiosity, and then that curiosity wears out, you know? If it's someone else's passion that I know won't wear out, then it's like I could always like I can probably put some there's obviously interspecies romance in this story. Like there are 6 girls who are none of whom are the same species and they have romantic entanglements. So like I know Luca will love this story. Period. Doesn't matter anything else I do. The story is already 100 out of 100 for Luca because it has interspecies romance. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for is like what could I put in this story and you're just like, "Oh, it's got you know, a lesbian in a leather jacket." It's already on my plan to watch, you know, like that's the kind of suggestions. The database, otaku shit. Wriggle should be like a mass of sentient worms, like how Halo Hunters are just a mass of wormies, but like if it was Moe. That's a great idea, actually. That's a really good idea because she looks super cute on the surface, but then you get close and you realize she's made of worms. Okay. So Wriggle is made of worms but looks adorable. You'd have to look at her really closely to realize that she is constantly wriggling. Is this like momentary Lily? Will there be character deaths? What about quirky vocal tics like Digicharet? I'm thinking closer to Digicharet because I want this to be like these characters could adventure potentially forever, you know? Again, I want them to be like the most badass troop of warriors in the universe. They're literally each queen of their... I should actually add that to the description because I didn't have that idea until right before I started the stream when I was talking to Bird. He kind of like accidentally referred to each of them as though they lead their solar system when I told them they were from a different one. And I was like, that's a good fucking idea. I'll just say queen for now. We'll figure out later if there's different like styles of rulership or, you know, specific names for what they do. You know, like governor of whatever. Oops. Just for the sake of clarity. Okay. Literal queens, one of whom's made of worms. I think there should definitely be like some like she can technically take on different forms, but this is the one that's like most endearing to everybody else on the ship. Like form suited to taste of girls on ship. But also it's just like I guess there's probably, I don't know. Can she like have worms come and go and still maintain the same, or is it like one set of worms? You know? Because I'm thinking, well, it would probably just be the one set as long as they're on the ship. But maybe she'd have like a terrarium somewhere on the ship with extra worms that could swap out. Like if some worms die, she's got like backups in a in like a somewhere on the ship is a habitat of more worms that can swap in. Okay. Okay. He said Wriggle should get tired and more silly when she's hungry. The more well fed she is, the more genius level intellect she has. Okay, so she's going to be a smart one. Gets dumber when hungry. Genius at full belly. Bellies? Yeah, whatever. Maybe they have bellies. I don't know. Okay. Ship engineer girl with goggles. Okay, so that's going to be probably Von Mamondi because I just like the idea of, I mean, this design right here from Hidari Mimi, this looks to me like a engineer girl. Like swap the outfit if she was not wearing, like it, if it was just a material difference, like literally just swap out the cotton for like a vest or something, and she would just be that, you know, like the ship mechanic girl in my mind anyway. So let's add that. Goggle wearing mechanic. Okay. Labyrinths as a core concept of the story really lends itself to space megastructures, O'Neill cylinders, Dyson's. Okay, let me write all these fuckers down. I'm gonna have to research all this shit to write about it. Okay, we'll just call them space structures. To base labyrinths on. Okay. Dyson spheres. Matryoshka brain. I feel like that came up in Nadesco. And asteroid mines. I forgot to put the fucking. That's because I didn't hit the space bar on the first one, so the rest of them didn't register as in a list automatically. Okay. I fuck heavy with anime girls in lab coats. Who could I put in a lab coat? I feel like EO would be the scientist on board, but I wouldn't want her to always be in a lab coat. I'd want her to be in some kind of like, maybe like a morphing outfit, like her clothes are just always transforming. Let's try that. All right. EO, ship scientist, sometimes clothes become lab coat. So now EO and Wriggle both have the commonality of like they're kind of creatures that would not naturally have a humanoid form. They're kind of doing it on purpose, you know, in order to be on the ship that is mostly other like pretty humanoid creatures. Okay. The idea of very different systems of rulership, because it's definitely a good source of instant cultural difference. Yeah, that'll be fun. I'll have to do, again, research, or like there'll have to be a lot of world building to figure out why each system of ruling is the way it is. Sometimes Wriggle is just like half a foot shorter because some worms are hungry or something. Okay. Is there another worm a mother worm that controls all the others and is her actual body? I think it works better if it's just like a complete hive mind. But I don't know. There could be. Maybe some worms have more specializations from others. I think that might be a little too complex to be easy to work with. Because I don't want her to be like trading out worms on the fly. I'm thinking of it more like something you can replenish when you go back to the ship. But she would be like, maybe dramatically by the end of a labyrinth, she might be reduced to like, one head height worth of worms or something, but then can be like restored back when they get to the ship type thing. I do like the idea of the engineer needing to be like weld something and just going breathes fire. Okay, yeah, beautiful. Great idea. She can literally be a fire-breathing dragon lizard creature from space. You could have them always be hungry like Cowboy Bebop, so when Wiggle finally gets full. No, these girls are too badass for them to be in that situation. This is not going to be... I would say that like this is going to be more on the Star Trek end of like having that hopeful feeling of like they're able to do this because they all kind of did figure out their own societies. Like their solar systems are fine, so much so that the queens, like just the most powerful warriors in the universe, basically can just go fuck off and take care of like obscure business, Like imagine if like everything just worked so smoothly that like the most clever people could just work on like the most esoteric problems, And in this case, that is like dimensional folding labyrinths in space. Basically my excuse to be as disconnected from the concerns of human society as it stands as possible and to really just dive like into like aspects of like theory of mind even beyond what is human. So a lot of these characters aren't human, so we'll be able to explore like ways of thinking that would arise from things other than a human experience, to get real heady, which again, none of this sounds easy to do, but we're trying to write a edgy visual novel, so we're just gonna go full fucking hog and write whatever, and it doesn't matter if it really makes sense. For ship mechanic inspiration, you can look at Springen's Kit, the Yu-Gi-Oh card. Oh yeah, this looks cool. She's a little like more on the small end though. I'm thinking this dragon girl. Well, I don't think she's gonna be like super tall, but she'll definitely be thick. Whereas this girl's more the size of Cat Girl, my flirty cat girl here. Also, I need to know how much fucking should there be in this? Like, what kind of visual are we going for? Like full scripted sex scene visual novel, or are we going for like implication of sex visual novel, or just flirtatious? What is your preferred level of sexuality from the story? Is it no guys allowed? Well, there just simply happens to only be the 6 girls on the ship. And another part of this, I mentioned at the start that they were all trans, but what that means will be different for all of them, because basically they all come from species that do have more than one gender, and they have all transitioned from one to another. And so they'll each have a totally different transition story, which will have to be, again, world building will create that. I must have misheard when you introduced them. You said Wiggle was the smart support. I think I was saying she was DPS support, but smart also makes sense. I mean, I like the idea of it. I love tachyons, but I'm too dumb to understand them mechanicalistically. Maybe one girl could understand labyrinths from the area of egress to their current position in reverse, the tachyon girl. At the very least, I will write tachyon down on the list of stuff. Tachyon! Da! 66654 tongue. I want of sex in my fictions is like vibes based. Okay, well, fair. This is the vibe, by the way. This is the general vibe. So I guess maybe this is the level of sexuality of the story, is whatever is in these three images here. But this is the general vibe I'm going for in terms of character relationships, how they interact with one another outside of, being on mission type shit. Have I read J.K. Haru as a sex worker in another world? I have not. Sometimes I want like 45 minutes of uninterrupted girls grinding. Sometimes the prodding gets in the way of the narrative I'm vibing with. Yeah, very fair. I'll definitely just have to be careful with it. Anime Guru saying, just got here, I'm slightly lost. We're plotting out a slice of life supernatural sci-fi psychological visual novel called Labyrinthers about a small sapphic sect of trans girls who travel around the universe in a starship solving labyrinths. And each of them is the queen of a different solar system. And now we're trying to figure out the details of who they are. So far, we've got a girl who's made of worms, a fire-breathing lizard girl, a scientist who I didn't really write down that like her form is ethereal and ever shifting to communicate. Yeah. And we've got really no details about Yildi yet or Alta Difta. But what does solving the labyrinths entail? Do they get treasure, or is it just for the scientific curiosity of it? Well, yeah, let's note about labyrinths, because I what we said about them earlier is just that basically they're causing some sort of reverse entropy that will like eventually swallow the universe if unattended. So like labyrinths are constantly growing inward in paradox space, causing reverse entropy in dark matter or some shit. And if unattended too long, will swallow space. Lana's trauma has created the ultimate labyrinth, posing the biggest threat, but she's also the best equipped to solve it, and her team is training on every other labyrinth they find to get good enough to tackle hers. How inspired is from David Bowie's Labyrinth? I have actually not seen it, so not at all. Unless whoever suggested that they solve labyrinths in the first place was inspired by that. Is there an episodic monster of the week sort of format on it, or is it just a continuing narrative? I'm thinking maybe like an arc structure, especially if this is a visual novel. If I wanted it to be like a series of visual novels, like Umineko or something, then maybe each book would be another labyrinth, you know? Or like sometimes there could be like a few in one if they're just shorter ideas. I don't know. We'll call it episodic arc structure, like Sword Art Online. Everyone's favorite. So they all already know Lana has the most dangerous labyrinth inside her. Yes, and I will say they're not really like. I haven't really figured out how they're created yet, but they exist physically in space. It's like, how about we'll say that in the future we find out that psychological trauma manifests as physical labyrinths in paradox space somewhere accessible through random wormholes elsewhere in the universe. So basically you jump through a wormhole into a labyrinth that was created by someone's psychological trauma. Yes, like sci-fi grief seeds, pretty much exactly. That's exactly what I'm going for. I'll put it like sci-fi grief seeds from Madoka. Yes. I mean, what would make that? I can't imagine anything that's going to make trans lesbians more excited about a story than telling them that it references Madoka Magica directly in its concept. So, you know, how soon would you introduce all the girls? I was thinking it would just start with all of them on a team. You know what? I should show you what in my head is like my main reference for this concept, because I have like a very strong visual in mind of this being like Soul Bianca, which is literally like 6 hot chicks in a spaceship solving problems for women on planets around the universe. Here's their ship. This is like they show up to save the day, and there's all of them. And then they go back and they chill on the spaceship and just kind of hang out and be hot, you know, have a cool time, talk about all the neat shit that they just did. Then they go kill some other patriarchy somewhere. So this anime only got 2 episodes. 2 hour-long OVAs in like 1990 and 1991. So let's go ahead and put in the notes. We'll call it Soul Bianca meets Space Dandy. That's what I'm looking for, because I want the Space Dandy level of like literally anything can happen, you know, and the characters are all like different types of aliens and shit. But I want it to have the vibes of Soul Bianca, of like there's chill, you know, it's like this group of girls whose thing is that they go around and like save other cute girls basically, and they go back to chilling. Do I have ideas for designs? Only these references. But I would want, like, Lana is probably the one who will just literally look like these images because she's a human. Everybody else will be non-human, so they'll probably be more imaginatively colorful. And also, like, this character, I don't really want to have like a face or like a solid form. She's always kind of just like floating in and out of herself, like like that fourth dimensional cube from Space Dandy. We'll call her physically fourth dimensional. When you say this is going to be edgy, are we talking elfin lead edgy, or what's the limit? I'm not really looking to make it like traumatizing. You know, I want it to be a healing story. Ultimately, it falls into the category of slice of life, but the same way that Cowboy Bebop falls into the category of slice of life, which is to say, like, it's very exciting because they live an exciting lifestyle, but ultimately you're just watching the characters like do their day job, you know? So there might be some episodes where it gets a little more bleak, you know, maybe you get attached to a character who dies, because obviously there will be other characters who are in the individual stories. It won't just be these 6 girls all the time, but you know, maybe there'll even be kind of like how in One Piece sometimes they take on like a temporary crew member. You know, there could be stuff like that. Like maybe somebody appears in more than one arc. Maybe some characters who aren't in the crew but always work with them type shit. If you have any ideas for any characters like that, spit them out, because I'll add them to the idea pile here. We've done some pretty good idea piling here so far. I'm liking where this is going. I had no ideas beyond what was in this document. Like, whatever I showed you, that's it. That's the whole extent of what I've dreamed up until we all came up with this stuff just now. Okay, let me read through. Do they use weapons or powers? I'm thinking both. Well, I definitely think, in my mind, Wriggle is some kind of like magical witch type, like, you know, I don't know. I'll figure out a magic system later, but type fighter. And then I definitely want Lana to be more of like an up close, like, you know, fisticuffs type. Also, we can come up with theme songs for some of them too. But she might have some kind of weapons, but I just want her to be like the tank, you know, in the fray. Kind of sounds like Wonder Egg Priority, but a million times better. I had to really think about what you meant by that, but then I was like, oh yeah, I guess kind of. In my head, Wonder Egg Priority and Flappers are the same anime, because both of them I watched like a couple episodes. It was like, yeah, right, it's like some artsy gay stuff, and then didn't watch the rest. Visually, what would you want the characters to look like? What style would they be drawn in? I guess that would really just depend on what artist ended up actually doing the art, if this becomes a visual novel. I get the feeling that if I talk about this enough, because of the fact that I have a substantial number of visual artists in my audience, someone's just going to start drawing these characters, and that's going to be who's the art, whoever captures whoever, I don't know, gets the most excited and, you know, really seems to like click with it and just, you know, starts doing it. I'll be like, all right, you're the one, you know. I can't afford to hire nobody, so it's going to come down to if somebody's like, I want to draw this. But there's a lot of conceptual work that can be done before we need to worry about art. Will I do an audiobook? You're putting the cart all the way in front of the horse, but probably yes. The beach episode should take place on the flirty cat girl's planet so we get to see her at max fan service. That's a good idea. We should have her come from just like a really slutty planet. And that's why she's like this. For the sci-fi setting, have you considered making one of the girls a cyborg? Okay, yeah. Let's just go ahead and just give that trait to Yildy because we've given her nothing so far. I also know I want her to be a ranged fighter. I wrote Tildy. Ranged weapons user and tactician. Let's give her that too. And a cyborg. We can figure out what kind of cyborg. They have different ways of traversing and sensing through the labyrinth. That's a good idea. Each girl has different. And also, like, I suspect a lot of this story will be committed to just trying to describe the conceptual space of the labyrinths. Like, literally, what are they? Because that will probably be a hard question to answer a lot of the time, you know? Like, part of it will be showing up and being like, all right, so where are we? You know? Like, maybe some... Let's say Soul Bianca meets Space Dandy and Yume Nikki. That's where we'll get our horror undercurrent from. Yume Nikki style surrealism. Like, just like that sense of literally what the fuck am I looking at when the characters show up, you know? It won't feel lonely and sad like Yume Nikki because you've got 6 hot lesbians hanging out. But, you know, the undercurrent of unease at the like state of reality can be there. But they never panic because they know that between the 6 of them, they can pretty much guaranteed figure out what's happening. Someone's got the senses, you know, to make it through whatever type of space it is. I'm gonna have to do so much fucking research into like how space works to make this like interesting. Cat Furry Riza, this rocks indeed. One of the girls should have a normal outward appearance but have a disproportionate amount of mass density like a black hole. Could leave for some funny or creative scenes. Let's make that because Io, who is physically 4th dimensional, should be like like she cannot physically be handled, you know? Like attempting to share the same space with her would be impossible, maybe is a way to put it, unless she did something to make it possible for you. But basically, we'll say she has control over her density. So she can be as dense as a black hole at will. Can control physical density inwardly and cannot be materially handled without making it possible for you. I assume the labyrinths are going to be really different from each other because they're based off traumas. Yeah, for sure. Each one, I would want each one to be like so different that it would almost be like a different story. You know, like the grounding will be that there are these 6 characters who you know because of their interactions before and after the labyrinths and stuff. And The first one will probably be a little bit more literal, you know, maybe like not as high concept as where we'll end up going afterwards. I don't know. Depends on what stories I actually feel I can write. One that spawned from a traumatized alien child is gonna whack in a way from an adult with a shitty living situation is gonna be, yeah, for sure. If you've ever read Solaris, it's about a planet that communicates by projecting memories. That could be a fun for a labyrinth. Okay, yeah. One labyrinth is based on trauma of a planet's shared sentience across its Gestalt network. Like, just it's a planet where life forms just experience themselves more literally as one. One of the constraints could be that not all labyrinths are accessible to all team members, which could allow for more developed or isolated character development. It's true. I'd hate to kick somebody out for like a whole story, though, if I was... Maybe that could be something for like some of the short ones. Like if I wanted to do some vignettes where I got them separated, there could be dimensions where certain characters can't go inside of. That would also be a good way to like kick out certain side characters or something, you know. Four-dimensional golf could be handy for understanding four-dimensional space. I'll look into it. Just put that in the list of stuff to research. Four-dimensional golf. So AO is like non-corporeal, a thingy inhabiting a sort of fluid humanoid shell. Yes, exactly. EO's ability being used won't always need explanation because it can be demonstrated by light being distorted. Ooh, that's a cool... Yeah. I'm glad y'all know more science than I do. When will you bring scripting? I'm assuming you meant to say begin. I don't know. As soon as there's enough ideas. I feel like that should be like relatively far off, you know. When I think about how to like prepare for creating a series, Gurren Lagann always comes to mind, where they said that they spent like 2 years figuring out what the story is, you know, just all the pre-production work, and then only like 6 months on actually animating the show. And it was just like compared to most projects, just very easy for them because they had planned it to such a degree that it was like we knew exactly what we were doing, you know. So I think with a story like this, where there's a lot of complex ideas and a ton of characters and a ton of world building to consider, I would want to know a lot about the story before I started writing the story. You know, like we'd already want to know a lot of things that would be considered spoilers before actually going into figuring out how do we reach those spoilers, you know, particularly when it comes to character backstories. Like I would want to know their at least a decent amount of their backstories before trying to write it, you know, which is kind of just pre-writing. It's basically writing, but before you write, and then you rewrite it again later, but whatever. Writing be wild. One idea for a labyrinth that doesn't appear to be a labyrinth at all. It seems like it's completely open space, but the trick is that it shouldn't be possible to be that open. Okay, yeah. Like a desert or a field of grass that's bigger than the planet it's supposed to be on. Okay. All right. We should have a ship chef, like a really good one who could produce Michelin star type ass food for each species. Okay, so that raises an interesting question. Should we make one of the 6 who's already here the chef, or should there be like a separate permanent, like ship chef who's just always on board? I mean, there's got to be some kind of crew that maintains the thing, right? So at some point we'll have to start inventing crewmates. Let's just notate necessary crewmates for now. Hello? Like a chef and a pilot, maybe? A chef robot? Sure, the chef can be a AI robot. But it's so advanced that it's basically a person. So, no discrimination. Personhood tier. Intelligence. Because these girls are going to want to flirt with the chef robot. Don't matter if she's a robot. If they got a cute chef robot, this is the vibe. Do I have any ideas for the trauma that is the cause of Lana's labyrinth? At the core of it will be whatever she had to do to unify, to become queen of the soul, or like whatever the experience is of being queen of the solar system. I'm thinking maybe I'll pull a Mass Effect and have it be like all the other ones have been like unified for a while, but like our solar system like just became like a unified government type thing. So it's like she personally was the one who did that, and it was like a very difficult thing to do. Would probably be like what started it. And then on top of that, just doing the labyrinths, like constantly experience, because I'm thinking not just like she'll have the most complicated one, but each of them will have like little labyrinths that exist just from the experience of going through labyrinths. Like the memory of a labyrinth creates another labyrinth that is like a similar but more manageable version, but once you've already had experience defeating the original, it's not as hard to beat the second one. You just got to kind of desensitize yourself to it until the trauma doesn't keep reappearing. Let's put that in the notes. And then there'll also be maybe a time where it can make a worse labyrinth because you're imagining how it could have been worse. Like thinking, well, that was pretty easy, but it could have been like. Have you considered developing the characters based on color symbolism? This could help design characterization and outfits. I definitely want each of them to be like just whole ass a totally different color. But I didn't want to pick ahead of time. And also like in the case of EO, where like they should just be kind of prismatic, like not really any one particular color. I'd probably represent them through just like, a gradient or something, different gradients each time they show up or whatever. How long had each of the planets been at peace with Queens as the leader? Yeah, I'm thinking probably, I mean, we'll get into each one specifically once we know more who these people are and what worlds they come from. But I think with Lana's case, it will be like she like unified soul system within her lifetime. And it won't be like she did all the work, but just happened to be the one born at the right time to have done it, have been the one to unify. She's the hero, the one they made queen. Yeah. I don't, Nisa, I don't think anybody really wants to be the leader. I think it's just you find yourself realizing, oh, nobody else can fucking do it, and then you go, oh shit, I guess it's got to be me. Um, is anybody else ever going to write this visual novel? No. I might not be capable of writing it by myself because clearly I didn't have any fucking ideas until I started asking y'all. But now that I have all these ideas, when I'm on my own, I can expand on all of this tremendously and come back with like all this new stuff. And then everybody else will have come up with new stuff. And then we'll hash out whose new stuff gets to stay if it contradicts other new stuff. And we'll have us a whole fucking writer's room going here. Nebula-like can be a color if you try real hard. Yeah. We'll just describe her as nebulously colored. Lana, Yildi, Wriggle, Vaughn, Alta, Io. Let's not have the characters separated by this. I keep saying Io, but I wanted it to be pronounced like Ao. It should be as difficult to pronounce as her shape implies. It should be as like, I don't really know how to say it. It's it's just a sound. Tell me what you think of these names, by the way. I know they're pretty fucking random. Aside from Lana Hickman being literally inspired by Dochi and Marlana Evans, the rest of them are, and Wriggle Holloway is these two names are in my brain because obviously Wriggle Nightbug from Toho and the Holloway tape from House of Leaves. But the rest of them are just Yildi Campo, Ao Binga, Von Mamandi. Alta Difta actually is a name I had that I was going to use for a different story because the Difta system is a real system, and I just thought that's it would make a fun last name. So, I was like, oh, whatever. She can literally have it be her name, and she's queen of it. She is the true child of Difta. Formatting is fun. Let's all format everything. It makes it easier to look at the document and understand what you're seeing immediately. Fundamentally gubernatorial. We did it, gang. And now you've got this sweet tab system that it does by itself. Pretty neat. Labyrinthers. What about an AI chef constantly searching for the human ingredient? Okay. I'll add that. And in the process has eaten plenty of people. They say you are what you eat. I got some good feedback on the Glory Hammer video. Was it the people who were talking about... Hold on, let me go find out. I'll just go read it. Can't believe it's already got 108 views. Oh, damn, I didn't think this would be something that made her to clip. I'm glad Trixie liked it, and her point about the animation being like Samurai Jack was something I never thought of for myself. The animation for the song really is fire. Trixie is right. It goes fucking hard indeed. And also have to agree, I also appreciate they made it not gay without calling attention to the fact that they were trying to make it not gay. Eclipse Dragonwing says, wow, no idea why you don't have more views. This is a fantastic reaction and breakdown. Glory Hammer has been one of my favorite bands for many years. This is their second animated video by this animator, and both of them were absolute hits. On a comment about the lead singer's voice not quite leading the song enough, this is their first album since their singer went on to make his own band under the name Angus McSix, and while the new lead is good and quickly rising to fill those big shoes, those with an ear for it can definitely tell they're trying to get their feet back under them from a musical and mixing perspective. If you'd like to hear one of their older songs with the previous singer, the video for Glory Hammer's song title, same as the band name, is a solid pick from their live-action videos or Rise of the Chaos Wizards. Hell yeah. I love when people write long, thoughtful comments. Okay. All right. I'm done working on this for now. I can't decide if I want to keep streaming or not. Any idea for which characters you wanted as veteran team members versus novice ones? You know, I hadn't really thought about how, like, what the timing of this team coming together would be yet, or like would have been. I guess it would probably help to figure out like what age each of them is. Yeah, actually, you know what, Decipher? I'm going to go ahead and end this stream so that everybody can just like watch it all the way through before, because, you know, obviously this is like hard to keep up with if you're trying to watch it live, and it's like I'm just introducing the whole concept at once. So I'll put this one to bed, and we'll revisit this idea on a later live stream after people have had time to digest what we've got so far. And then if I come back on tonight, I'll be talking about something else, probably doing requests. Okay, thank you. Keep this story in mind and share with me any ideas you come up with in the We Make Art channel of the Discord if you can't remember it for the next time I stream about this, because I don't know when that'll be. Later.